The morning air in the small town of Brattleboro, Vermont, carried the quiet rhythm of ordinary life. Cars rolled slowly down narrow streets. Shop owners unlocked their doors, and somewhere in the background a janitor pushed a mop bucket down a polished hospital hallway. His name was Ronald Read. To most people, he was invisible, just another elderly man in a worn flannel shirt, driving an old Toyota that rattled when it started. If you passed him on the street, you probably wouldn't look twice. And yet, hidden behind that quiet routine was a secret that no one suspected. Because Ronald Read, a humble janitor who spent his life sweeping floors and fixing light bulbs, was quietly building a fortune. Ronald's story didn't begin with wealth or opportunity. It began decades earlier, during the harsh winters of rural Vermont in the 1920s. He was born into a family that knew hardship well. The kind of hardship where money was counted carefully, where nothing was wasted, and where every dollar had to stretch further than it should. As a child, Ronald walked miles to school through snow-covered fields. There were no promises of financial success waiting for him. No wealthy relatives. No trust funds. Just long days, cold mornings, and the quiet determination that often grows in people who learn early that the world doesn't hand out easy rewards. When Ronald became an adult, his path seemed almost predetermined. He served in the military during World War II, like many men of his generation. When the war ended, he returned home, not to fame or fortune, but to a simple life of work. He took a job as a janitor at J.C. Penney. Later, he worked at a gas station. His days were repetitive and predictable. Mop the floors, empty the trash, sweep the sidewalks, fix the occasional broken fixture. Day after day, year after year, the routine rarely changed. People who knew Ronald described him as quiet, polite, reserved, the kind of man who never spoke much about himself. He wore the same types of clothes for years, often patched and repaired rather than replaced. His car was old, sometimes embarrassingly so. He lived in a modest home. Nothing about his lifestyle hinted at anything extraordinary. If someone had asked the people around him whether Ronald Read was wealthy, most would have laughed at the idea, but every evening, after the cleaning supplies were put away and the gas pumps were turned off, Ronald followed a routine that almost no one knew about. He studied the stock market carefully, patiently, methodically. While others relaxed after work, Ronald sat quietly with newspapers, financial pages spread across his kitchen table. He read company reports. He studied dividends. He learned how businesses grew over time. He didn't chase risky bets or exciting headlines. Instead, he looked for strong companies that paid steady dividends and had survived for decades. His strategy was simple. Buy good companies, hold them, reinvest the dividends, and then wait. At first, the investments were small. A few shares here, a few shares there. Nothing dramatic, just slow accumulation. But time has a strange way of transforming small beginnings into something powerful. Years turned into decades. Dividends were reinvested. Stocks split. Companies expanded. The quiet janitor, who most people barely noticed, kept adding to his portfolio whenever he could afford it. Meanwhile, his life outside of investing remained unchanged. He still worked, still cleaned floors, still lived simply. He rarely spent money on luxuries. Instead, he saved relentlessly. Some people might have mistaken his lifestyle for extreme frugality. But Ronald wasn't chasing wealth for appearances. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. In fact, he never told anyone what he was building. By the time Ronald reached his 70s, something remarkable had already happened. His investments had grown far beyond what anyone around him could have imagined. Shares in companies like Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, and J.P. Morgan had quietly multiplied over the years. Dividend payments continued flowing into his account, growing larger and larger with time. Yet Ronald never changed his habits. He still drove the same type of car, still wore simple clothes, still clipped coupons. And perhaps most surprising of all, he continued walking through town like an ordinary retiree. No one saw the hidden numbers sitting quietly inside his brokerage account. Years passed. The small Vermont town aged with him. Businesses came and went. Generations grew up. People who had seen Ronald cleaning floors decades earlier still remembered him as the quiet man who kept to himself. Then, one autumn day in 2014, Ronald Read passed away at the age of 92. At first, nothing seemed unusual. His death was marked with a simple obituary, much like many others in small towns across America. Friends and acquaintances remembered him fondly. A quiet man, hardworking, kind, someone who lived a modest life. But a few weeks later, something happened that left the entire town stunned. Lawyers began reviewing Ronald's estate. At first, the numbers didn't seem real. Then they checked again. And again. What they discovered would soon spread through headlines across the country. The quiet janitor who had spent his life sweeping floors had left behind an investment portfolio worth over $8 million. $8 million. The news spread quickly. People who had known Ronald for decades couldn't believe it. The man they had seen walking around town in worn jackets, driving an old car, quietly living his life, had been a millionaire the entire time. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. Ronald hadn't kept the money for himself. In his will, he left most of his fortune to charity. $6 million went to the local hospital, where he had once worked as a janitor. Another $2 million went to the town library. Suddenly, the story of Ronald Read transformed from a financial mystery into something deeper. The janitor who quietly built a fortune had chosen to give it away. People began asking questions. How had he done it? How could someone with an ordinary salary build such wealth without anyone noticing? Financial experts who examined his portfolio discovered that Ronald had never relied on risky trades or sudden windfalls. There were no dramatic stock market gambles, no speculative bets, just decades of patient investing. His secret wasn't complicated. It was time. And discipline. While others chased quick profits or spent money freely, Ronald quietly invested in businesses that continued growing year after year. The power of compounding, often described in textbooks, but rarely demonstrated so clearly, had turned small investments into a massive fortune. In the end, Ronald Read never became famous during his lifetime. He never appeared on television, never gave interviews about his strategy, never told the world what he was doing. He simply lived his life. Working, saving, investing, waiting. And when his story was finally revealed, The world realized that the quiet janitor from Vermont had achieved something extraordinary without ever seeking recognition. Because sometimes the most powerful stories aren't the loudest ones. Sometimes they belong to the people quietly sweeping the floors, walking unnoticed through life, building something remarkable, one small step at a